Okay. So thank you for choosing to stay in this class. Okay. So this is week 3. We will continue to know more about energy efficiency building technologies. So today, so I will give a briefing introduction to green building architecture, and then we know more about the relationship between green building architecture and building energy efficiency. Sure, as I mentioned, for the energy efficiency building technologies, so it can be classified into passive design and active design. So last week, we know more about passive design, active design, and the uh, combined design. And sure, also I show you, in fact, we have available natural resources to explore and to introduce them into our building. So for energy efficiency, so including solar energy and also the cold universe and wind and also the water. Yeah, we can in fact we can make use of those natural resources. Okay, for building energy efficiency. So then, firstly, let's see for a green architecture design. Firstly, let's have um, know more about green spaces and green planning and what the steps to introduce greenery into our buildings and our community for energy efficiency. Firstly, for green spaces, we have to let you know is the reforestation and afforestation. So we can see, in fact, we have more facts and figures related the sustainable development. Sustainable development goals, including we can see we pay attention to the deforestation. This is mainly caused by the conversion of forests into agricultural land, and also which is responsible for about 10% of global greenhouse gases emission. So if we want to slow down the global warming, we need to stop deforestation. Okay, this is a deforestation is to convert the forests into agricultural land, and which contributes to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, and also due to the deforestation, it affects about 1/3 of world's land surfaces. Okay, so therefore, for green spaces, for the forests, the deforestation, so which we need to stop it. And because forests play a very important role in maintaining the health of our planet. So we can see the forests, in fact, provide us numerous experimental, social, and economic benefits, including like the carbon sequestration, habitat preservation, and soil erosion control and timber production. So, however, due to the deforestation, and various human activities. So this world has witnessed a significant decline in forest over the years. Okay, so forest plays very important role in maintaining the health and living of our planet. And this is from Reuters. It reported that the deforestation in Brazil's rainforest rose 14%. So in March from the previous year. So this rise in numbers reveals that the Amazon still suffers from a huge lack of governance, and that the new government needs to act urgently to rebuild its capacity for repression to environmental crime. And also, we can see how to counteract this loss due to the change, the conversion of forest and to agriculture lands purpose. So we have two approaches, including afforestation and reforestation. So it's different. So at the beginning, we talk about green spaces. That's mainly talk about the forests. And we can see the deforestation result in contributes to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And also we can see and this tends to its numbers it rises. And these are two methods of increasing forest cover. And we also say, but it's different. So for reforestation, it refers to the establish of forests. So the forests, the past usually less than 50 years ago. This is past. This is present. So we replanting the forest. So and establish a forest where previously there have been none or where forests have been missing for a long time. So it means 50 years, within 50 years. And what about a forestation process? It refers to the replanting of trees. So in the past, it's a non-forest area. So now, we predict the future. We plant trees, and for the future, for a standing forest. So before talking about green architecture, so we firstly we know more about green spaces. That's mainly forests, and we understand due to the deforestation and so which causing also global warming, and we have two strategies, okay, to counteract this issue. It is reforestation and afforestation. So what about our cities? What are the green spaces in our cities? So for previously, we talked about green spaces on the earth. So that's mainly for the forests. However, what about for our cities? What is the green planning for our cities? So firstly, let's have a look at the definition of the urban green space. So what is urban green space? So urban green spaces are urban areas which were occurred that natural or semi-natural ecosystems were converted urban spaces by human influence. Urban green spaces provide the connection between the urban and the nature. Okay, this is urban green spaces. So in fact, we have a long history of the development of green space system planning in our cities. So firstly, we can see these planning ideas, this concept of urban green spaces systems have mainly gone through 4 stages, including the park movement and the park system in the second half of the 19th century. Okay, I think it's over almost 200 years. Okay, then the second stage is the initial development of urban green space system planning from the early 20th century to the 1950s. And then, so we firstly introduced the ecological ideas into a green space systems from the 1960s to 1970s. So after the first urbanization and industrialization, so people introduced ecological ideas. And then after that, after the 1980s, okay, the urban green space system planning entered the ecological movement period. So that's we have a basic understanding of the development of green space systems, system planning for our in cities. So there are many green planning cases for cities. This is one example here. We can see like Brazil, they have an intensive bus rapid transit system. So they have their urban planning, okay, urban planning. So we can see for the city, Curitiba, I cannot pronounce it, has almost 600 square feet of green space per resident, mostly in the form of municipal parks. And also for Canada, the Vancouver, we can see is a city. It's with a very clear green initiatives. So for the city. And the city has the goal of building exclusively energy efficient building for all green new buildings in the city. And they planned all buildings in the city are mandated to be carbon neutral by 2013. So we can see Vancouver has made efforts to preserve urban green spaces, the city parks, street trees, and pocket parks. And also, we can see the fingers, like over 90% of their residents live within a 5 minutes walk of green spaces. And 18% of the city is urban forest. And then we now understand for green spaces and green planning, it's for the earth is forests and then for the cities is the green planning in cities. So, and what about green architecture? So for buildings, so that's from the earth, the cities, and then now for buildings. So firstly, let's have a look. What's the definition of green architecture? Green building, and it refers to both a structure and the application of the process that are environmentally responsible and resource efficient throughout a building's life cycle. So from planning to design, construction, operation, maintenance, renovation, and demolition. So sure. So for green buildings, it requires close cooperation of the contractor, the architects, the engineers, and the client at all project stages. Okay, from the design planning to design, construction, and also operation, maintenance, renovation, and even the demolition. So we can see from the design, we need to consider, okay, if we try to make use of the natural resources, and also sure, we can consider try to choose for our building construction, choose the circular and low carbon materials. And sure, natural resources, including the air, the air movement, the wind. Okay, so we also consider passive ventilation for our buildings, for our for our buildings. And for the construction stage, okay, even we can consider to introduce recycled materials for decommissioned buildings. And also Hong Kong is very popular, is modular or prefabricated construction method. Okay, so Hong Kong, so there's a modular, that's especially for public housing. Okay, public housing is very popular. Sure, for operation and maintenance, in fact, last week we also we can introduce AI smart energy management system strategies into the operation of our building. So sure, so for the common one, we consider recycling and water treatment and active energy management, etc. So therefore, not only green buildings, that's not only for energy efficiency, although we mainly focus on energy efficiency for this teaching subject. But we can see green building focuses on low energy consumption. I think low consumption not only for energy and water and also materials, etc., and also high efficiency economy, environmental protection, integration, and optimization. So for the green building architecture, so the fundamental principles are linked to the green building, the concept of green building. So we should minimize the resource consumption, including energy efficiency and water efficiency. We should maximize the resource reuse. Okay, the resource use. We also try to make use of the renewable resources or natural resources or recyclable resources. And also at the same time, so we have to protect our natural environment, so to reduce the adverse environmental impact. And sure, so to create a healthy, safe, and comfort, non-toxic built environment or indoor environment. So the philosophy of sustainable architecture or green building architecture is embodied in various practices that aim to reduce the negative impact of a building on its environment and to take care of the quality of life of users and the neighboring communities. So we can see not only for the users in the building, we have to reduce the negative impact on our environment, including our neighboring communities. So for sustainable construction technology used in green architecture construction mainly include, so we use recycled and biodegradable materials. And that's some detailed technologies. I think we also introduced last week. So try to make a full use of the natural resources such as solar energy, and the code universe, and also choosing a thermally insulated building envelope to reduce the heat gain of our building and the cooling load. And sure, so for active design, we should um, propose low energy, zero energy building energy system design, and also to integrate water efficiency technologies and other technologies into our green construction. So then we can see, because for green building architecture and also green buildings, not only we regarding the efficiency, but also we should try to reduce the negative impact of our buildings on its surrounding or its environment. So let's have a look the benefits of green buildings. So it's mainly because we know green spaces in cities, green planning in cities. We have the concept of the ecological balance. So sure, it's largely help us reduce the green buildings, reduce the negative impact on its environment, and maintain the ecological balance. So how to design structures based on the concept of green buildings? So that's mainly from the planning and to design. So we have to so for the planning, we need to conduct a site analysis and planning of our building and community. Sure, at the design stage, so we should try to propose energy efficiency design technologies, okay, and also choose environment-friendly materials. And for the construction and also for the operation, we also need to consider waste reduction and recycling and smart building technologies. So in fact, for green building architecture, we know there is several green building evaluation tools, assessment tools, and for the top 3 green building certification around the world, that's mainly including LEED. Okay, so what is LEED? LEED is leadership in energy and environmental design, and so this is from UK. It's Building Research Establishment Environmental Assessment Tool, and this is for Australia Green Star, and for China, and also there's one for Hong Kong. So for Hong Kong is BEAM. So what is BEAM? BEAM, I think it's a building evaluation assessment method. So in fact, the BEAM is for there's BEAM for new buildings and also for existing buildings. So you can get more information from website for the BEAM, and they have all this assessment tool for free. So in Hong Kong, in fact, we have several green architecture examples, outstanding examples, including the Hong Kong Children's Hospital. Okay, we can see, I think it's they introduce greenery and not only on the ground floor, the terraces and also vertical greening fences. And also the utilize solar energy and solar, I think that's for solar hot water panels, okay, to produce hot water, and also solar photovoltaic panels. So I think these are just a very common practice. Greenery, solar, solar, solar PV panels, and solar collectors. And when we talk about how the green-based, yeah, this one a slide from my research group. So how the greenery and the green planning, green spaces, and can help us elevate the urban heat island effect. So why there's urban heat island effect? So during week 1, we understand our human activities will release heat into our outdoor environment. That's for our air conditioner, from our refrigerators, from the cars, from all energy consuming machines and processes, because the efficiency is not 100%. So there's losses. All the heat, waste heat, released into outdoor environment. The second reason is also due to the urbanization. So at the beginning, we mentioned for forests, the deforestation causes contributes to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And also, why urbanization amplifies the warming mechanisms and weakens the cooling process, so leading to systematic heat accumulation. That is because for trees and plants, they can provide shade. The short wave and long wave radiation blocked by plant canopy. And also less heat absorbed by building, then less heat will be absorbed by building and ground surfaces. So it's causing the low surface temperature and the lower air temperature. And also, in fact, there is a heat mass transfer between the sun, the air, and also the trees. The tree will evaporate as well. So that's the water cycle. So so due to the evaporation of the plants, okay, breathing of the plants, it will also cooler, okay, the environment. So therefore, that is the reason, and also for the trees, for the it can provide why the trees can help elevate the urban heat island effect. One reason is provide shading, okay, provide shading. The second, it can increase albedo. So we understand for all construction materials, their surfaces has high solar reflect index, causing the urban making the city absorb or trap heat. So we can see the trees has higher reflectance of the solar irradiance. So less heat will absorbed by the canopy and the lower canopy temperature and less long-wave emissions. And especially for the evapotranspiration, the breathing of the plants, it will increase the latent heat flux, decreases the sensible heat flux, and lower the surface temperature for the canopy and the turf. So therefore, it can also help lower the air temperature. So even the recent paper published in Nature Cities let us know how the greeneries help us elevate the green urban heat island effect. So the urban greenery basically has a cooling effect. So the urban greenery reduces the urban heat by jointly regulating the shading, its breathing, okay, evaporative breathing, okay, and also surface albedo, okay. So this is the combined effect, okay. So this the combined factors why the urban greenery can reduce the urban heat. So by providing shading, okay, increased albedo or increased reflectance, okay, solar reflectance, and also is evapotranspiration. It's the breathing of the plants. Is evaporative, can provide evaporative cooling. Okay, so liquid to a vapor. So then last time, so we know more about that. So now we understand the importance of urban greenery to reduce urban heat and urban heat island effect. So then maybe you are curious about this proposed framework for implementing the greenery at different scales. So we can see, including the green vegetation, okay, the green roof, the green wall, and pervious pavement. So the greenery, okay, can be the carrier system green walls, can extensive green roofs. They can be intensive green roofs and extensive green roof, and even support system green walls. Okay, even and at different scales, so we can see we have different steps. So at the city level, so we can prioritize the neighborhoods, including the thermal imagery and social vulnerability and activity maps, okay, to guard. And step 2, to characterize the neighborhoods, identify the build forms and 3D consideration. And also, finally, I think the detailed for the site, so even the street neighborhood and the site, to identify, the detailed strategy, including large green spaces, okay, large green spaces, and small green spaces, and green roofs, and green walls. Okay, that's at a different scale, from city level to the neighborhood street and also to the site. Okay, so we have the different ideas to large green spaces, small green spaces, and even green roofs, green walls. So we can see the green walls can help us reduce the heat transmission into buildings. It can identify surfaces with exposure to high levels of solar irradiance. So this is because there's thermal imaging, thermal imagery to identify the sites with the highest temperature. So the spaces suitable for the greenery. So we can also use intensive system, intensive, okay, intensive and extensive. This is extensive, intensive, okay, ways to improve the thermal performance. I think it's similar for the green walls. So in the previous, I think half hour, 35 minutes, we introduced the green spaces on the earth is forests, the green spaces in cities, and also greeneries for our urban greenery and greenery. Green building architecture is a green architecture, the greenery for our buildings. So at a different scale, even from the earth, so the forests to urban forests and large urban green space and small green spaces and green roof, green walls, so we can introduce the greenery into our buildings and into our cities. Then I think we will talk more about, besides greenery, we also have other energy efficiency technologies, strategies. Even I think last week we have introduced in a brief briefing manner. So firstly, for building envelope, because it's very important for passive design, is to understand the function and the features of our building skins. So firstly, we have to know the function of building envelope. So sure, building envelope, I think it has they have mighty functions, even including support our building structure, okay? And sure, separate outdoor environment, separate outdoor environment and indoor environment. So in ancient time, so people lived even in caves, okay? The mountains, okay? They are the separation, I think, media, okay, to isolate you, the built environment from the out environment. So for our buildings, so they call building envelope. So one function of building envelope is to separate outdoor environment and indoor environment. However, when we regarding so one of the reason is to keep, comfort, okay, indoor environment. So therefore, what about if for the building envelope, it can be considered as a heat insulation strategy? Okay, that's what we will discuss. So basically, building envelope design is a specialized area of architecture and engineering practice that draws from all areas of building science and indoor climate control. So for a building, we mainly classify them regarding so if it's transparent or not. Buildings merely classified as a heat insulation strategy. We merely separate them, classified them into opaque building envelope and glazing windows. So one is opaque, so light cannot transmit it into through them into the interior space. And then is the glazing windows. The glazing windows, that's mainly so we can. The main purpose of glazing window is to introduce daylight into the space. However, definitely we can see glazing window with the poorest thermal performance. As we can see, in fact, because its U value is 5 times greater than the walls and the roofs, so around almost half of the energy in the building is wasted through windows. Okay, so that's easy for us to understand. So the glazing windows, so the buildings with a large glazing window area is easily to lose heat or gain heat due to their poor thermal performance. So there's some buildings like so for manufacture factories. So those buildings usually with a large roof to wall ratio. However, for our cities, nowadays our buildings are featured by high window to wall ratio, window to wall ratio. So that's because I think it's a better appearance, and also it can introduce the visible light into the interior space. So that is the reason why now modern buildings usually with a high window to wall ratio. However, we can see the glazing windows or curtain walls. So with the high U values and low with a high solar heat gain. So we introduce later, which causing the high building energy use. Okay, high building energy use for air conditioning, for space heating and space cooling. Because I understand some of you have have a different academic background. So now I would like to introduce so regarding heat flow, okay? The heat flow through the building envelope. We have to understand. So at high school, you have learned. So there are three modes of heat transfer. They are so conduction heat transfer, convection heat transfer, and radiation heat transfer. So conduction heat transfer, that's mainly the conduction through a solid or stationary fluid. So therefore, for our building envelope, not only for our roof, our wall, or glazing windows, they are solid state, okay? They are solid state. So that is conduction heat transfer. So conduction heat transfer, that's mainly when, maybe you will ask, when there is a heat flow or conduction heat transfer, that's when there is temperature difference, the heat flow, okay? So high temperature heat flow will, okay, the heat flow from the high temperature surface to the low temperature surface, okay? How to calculate? We have Fourier's law. So we can see the heat flow is proportional to the thermal conductivity. So thermal conductivity is very common. So we touch the metal, you feel cold because metal has good thermal conductivity, okay? However, for fiberglass, for the cotton, they with the low thermal conductivity. So we know thermal insulation materials with a low thermal conductivity. And the second is their thickness. Sure, thicker. Okay, that means higher thermal resistance. There's a smaller heat flow through it. So that's the general practice for building envelope. If you want to reduce the U value or reduce the conduction heat flow, conduction heat transfer. So you choose the material, insulation material. Sure, because you need sometimes supporting function or other function, so you can add an insulation layer with a low thermal conductivity and also thicker. Okay, or your brick or your concrete wall thicker. Also, you can reduce the heat loss or the heat gain. That means the heat flow. And sure, sometimes there are multi-layers for our walls. Okay, they are multi-layers. So that's also help us lower the conduction heat transfer. However, when there is wind, this is the roof, for example, this is the roof, there is convection heat transfer. So for example, if this is the roof, okay, there is wind flow over the roof. We talk about wind can help us remove heat. How? Here it is through convection heat transfer. Okay, so for urban ventilation, we know air vent can help us remove heat. Okay, this is the way, because between the moving fluid, if for example, if the roof, so in the afternoon, so it's 50 degrees Celsius. If the coming wind is 30, okay, it can still, okay, we can see there is convection heat transfer. So the heat transferred from the hotter surface into the moving fluid, for example, is the air. Okay, I think convection heat transfer is very important. Okay, for our cities and also for our buildings. Convection heat transfer. And then, the last one, sometimes a little bit difficult to understand, is radiation heat transfer. Radiation heat transfer, they don't need, so whenever there's two surfaces, there's a temperature difference. Sure, there's a temperature difference. There is a radiation heat transfer. Even between you and me, okay? So we have radiation heat transfer. This is the reason why when there is a fire, you feel hot, because there is radiation heat. Okay, you receive radiation heat from the fire. And another example, if it's this wall facing west, okay, it's very hot. When you are facing the hot wall, you also feel very hot. Okay, that is also because of the radiation heat transfer. And later, so we also introduce passive radiative cooling. So that is also one way of our thermal, the radiation heat transfer. So radiation heat transfer, so we can see the equation, how to calculate the heat flow. Okay, there's the fourth law. Okay, this is the absolute temperature. And then how to apply all those theories into our building envelope. So I just let you know, like if like passive radiative cooling, so we try to leveraging the radiation heat transfer to cool down our building. And sure, okay, so if we introduce wind with good urban ventilation, good wind will also remove the heat, cooler your building. And sure, if your buildings with a good thermal insulation, it can also block the outside heat. flows into your building. So these are the strategy we can consider. So through the heat transfer, the principles of heat mass transfer. Then let's look at for our building. It's more complicated. Okay, for example, like for this wall. Okay, in fact, we still not only heat transfer. Okay, if there is a temperature, this is high temperature, this is a low temperature, there is heat flow due to the temperature difference. So, and the walls act as a thermal regulator. Okay, we need to calculate the U value of it to calculate the conduction heat transfer due to the temperature difference of two surfaces. Sure, but for our buildings, during daytime, our building will also receive the solar irradiance. So then we have to consider the absorbance, solar absorbance of our building. And we will absorb solar and becomes hotter. And then there's another heat flow into our building, okay, into our building. And sure, we also reflect some solar irradiance back. And then today we will also talk about, because no one consider the thermal emissivity. The thermal emissivity. Now it got hot, the surface, and the sun is very hot. So we didn't consider is heat is thermal emissivity. Okay, this is at the moment, no standards consider thermal emissivity. How the heat, okay, this how can be dissipated into its surrounding and into the cold universe. So similar for a glazing window. So there is heat flow. In fact, there is heat flow due to temperature difference. Okay, there's a high temperature, low temperature. And also it becomes complicated because there is transmittance. Okay, there is a transmittance. This part is called solar heat gain. Solar heat gain. This part is so regarding glazing window becomes complicated. Heat flow due to temperature difference and also solar heat gain. So look at here. The solar, the sun some will be absorbed and transmitted. And also the transmitted, the absorbed one, so the absorbed one will also causing the temperature increase of the glass. So the hot glass will retransmitted the heat into the interior space and also outside. Okay, there is one thing, this is called how much heat into the space is called solar heat gain. It's called solar heat gain. Okay, so how to examine it? We have a scientific term is solar 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 heat gain coefficient. Okay, so this is the term to examine the solar heat gain. Okay, this is due to the solar irradiance. So we consider the transmittance. We also consider the absorbed heat, how much inward flowing due to the absorbed solar irradiance of the window. That's two parts. Okay, and the U value is used to measure the thermal insulation performance. So then we consider the temperature difference, then we can calculate the heat flow due to the temperature difference, outdoor and indoor temperature difference. But for windows, especially for Hong Kong, solar heat gain coefficient is more important because the glazing windows introduce large amount of solar energy into the space. Then now we can clearly see, however, for this, we also didn't consider the emissivity of the glass. Okay, the emissivity of the glass. Although we consider this is emissivity transmitted, we consider transmitted into the indoor air and outdoor on the outside atmosphere. But we didn't consider the emissivity. So the thermal emissivity, especially in the atmospheric window. Okay, so unluckily, the glass also with a small thermal emissivity. So at the spectral range of 8 to 13 micrometer. So that's the reason when you touch glass, it's also very hot. Glass also don't know how to release heat into the space. So all construction materials with low thermal emissivity, almost all, especially in the atmospheric window. So after understanding, then we know more about glazing windows. So we can see the application of glasses causing one is result in high energy use. Okay, so we see the heat gain due to its poor thermal insulation and due to the solar heat gain. Okay, and also it's very dirty. Okay, it's also very dirty. And sure, for windows, for the glass, the first why we introduce is due to it has visible light transmittance, right? If it's opaque, we don't want it, okay? So then if you want to know more about, so it's the visible light transmittance. So we also have to understand for the transmittance plus reflectance and absorptance will be equal to 1. Okay, the relationship. If there is a low reflectance, it has high transmittance and high absorptance for glass. So these are the so this is very important for us. Okay, if we really want to understand glazing, so energy efficiency for glazing windows, most important is you understand these 3 important properties. So firstly, you have to ensure the visible light transmittance. Okay, this is the reason why you introduce windows. Okay, second, for Hong Kong, for hot regions, we merely consider solar heat gain coefficient. So smaller the better. Okay, smaller the better. And for the cities like Harbin, they merely consider the U value because the temperature difference between outdoor and indoor is huge. Okay, so this is the priority one, like for Harbin. Okay, that is because the outdoor and the indoor environment, the temperature is quite large. Okay, U values related to the temperature difference between indoor and outdoor. Okay, but for Hong Kong, because the temperature difference is not that huge, and however, we have strong solar irradiance. Okay, then So for Hong Kong, this is the priority one we need to consider. And later, I will share you with more examples how to lower the U value, reduce the conduction heat transfer. What's the strategies to lower the solar heat gain coefficient, lower the solar heat gain without the sacrifice of visible light transmittance? So this is the solar heat gain. So how much transmitted, and for the solar heat, absorbed solar heat, some will radiate into outdoor and some radiates into the interior space. So knowing glasses, we also have to know the properties, physical properties of the glass, including their density, specific heat. Specific heat let us know how much heat it can hold. Okay. We know phase change materials can hold heat, okay, energy. But what about glass? The specific heat is 120-35 joule per kilogram per Kelvin degree. It's not that high. And also, we know there are other material properties, including their density, thermal expansion, thermal diffusivity, and thermal conductivity, etc. It's not conductive, but it's okay. And also, we know the glass for our buildings. There's clear glass, annealed glass, which breaks easily. And we are using the tempered glass and laminated glass. Okay. So then I think I will let you know, because for windows, we have to consider their thermal conductivity, heat capacity, and optical properties. And here, following my suggestion, we can see for the United States, based on different climate zones, they have different values for the U values. They have different recommended values for U value and the solar heat gain coefficient. And this is the let you know more about visible light. And I think at the beginning, we have mentioned the peak is visible light. And also, this is a transparency, okay? Visible light transmittance of the glass. So we can see, so which one is acceptable? Sure. So you cannot just reduce the transparent transparent visible transmittance. So this is 50%, this is 90%. I think for our buildings, usually is larger, okay? Larger than 90% is acceptable. So when you are choosing different technologies, you have to make sure, okay, the visible light is acceptable. So what are the strategies? And we found that our buildings with a high window-to-wall ratio and the thermal conductivity, thermal transmittance is huge. And even the fingers, we can say the average window area per person is almost 11 square meter is very high. So the approaches, I think the first is decrease the U value. What other strategies like double glazing, triple glazing, even vacuum glazing? Okay, so several layers with air gap. Okay, to decrease the U value. This is especially for northern cities. Okay, cold climate. Okay, they have to consider the thermal insulation to decrease U value. And what about Hong Kong? We consider the solar spectral regulation to reduce the solar heat gain coefficient. Please know, for double glazing, triple glazing, usually the solar heat gain coefficient doesn't change much, okay? So that's even for our library, that's double glazing windows. But there's slightly reduction of solar heat gain coefficient. So now with the advancement, so we can control the spectral, okay, to reduce the solar heat gain coefficient. Sure, you can also let some of the sunlight to generate electricity. So come in practice, in fact, for our buildings, sure, most time, yeah, we have the clear glass, but clear glass and double glazing windows. Okay, and so for double glazing windows, it has poor thermal performance. And then for energy efficiency glazing windows, so I think we are familiar with the low E coating. Low E coating is the low E is the low E is soft coating. The main purpose is to reflect solar irradiance. But there are several types of low E coatings. For southern cities, for northern cities, it has its drawbacks. The low E coating, so with high reflectance, may be causing light pollution for surrounding environment, and also for interior due to its low emissivity. So it's also trap heat or cold leaving the space, especially the hot, the heat leaving the space. It has its drawbacks of low E coating. And very commonly for our buildings, we are using tinted glass. So with different nanoparticles to absorb some of the solar spectrum to reduce the absorbed solar heat, but then it becomes hot. So these are the low E glass. Okay, that's mainly it's reflect the sunlight. We can see for different low E, we can got the transmittance and the solar heat gain coefficient. Okay, and the U value. Usually they provide us, okay, if it's visible light transmittance acceptable or not, and then we know more about its U value and the solar heat gain coefficient. So for low E coating, because it's a soft coating, usually is they have to be together with the double glazing. Okay, double glazing. Later, I think we also know more about the low E coating. So the tinted glass is by adding some color pigments, okay, to absorb some range of solar radiation, okay, to reduce the solar heat gain, and also they can be in colors. So we can see with a different color, and so the U value and the solar heat gain coefficient. Sure, there are other new glazing technologies, including the solar PV glazing. I think this is also hot research topic. And also in our department, Professor Yang also working vacuum glazing technology. So vacuum glazing technology is simple to understand. It's a vacuum between two glasses, okay, but it's because it's difficult to support. So in fact, there is inner metal pillar to support to separate each other. You look like a single glazing, but it's a double with a vacuum. Okay, it's vacuum. So we can see the vacuum glazing with a really low U value. Okay, this is the U value of the maximum U value for roofs of different cities as well from the table. So we can see this finger even, so this is for Harbin. So and the maximum U value for roofs 0.03. But for vacuum glazing, we can see very, very thin, but it has a similar U value of very thick, okay, building roof. And also, it can be very dirty. The glass is usually very dirty. And also, we also have the idea of make use of the sunlight to achieve. I think it's the self to achieve self cleaning. Okay, this is we made the surfaces to be self cleaned. So just learn from the nature. So even the glass. And we also have a video. Maybe we skip it. Okay, well, we think.
翻嚟睇下一種專用喺玻璃嘅塗料，咁整污糟咗紫外線之餘，塊玻璃仲識得自己清潔，你會唔會有興趣咧？唔信？陣間我哋記者去睇下呢種物料嘅真身。玻璃窗、玻璃門，周圍都係玻璃，係就係方便室內採光。不過點做？問佢啦。服装中呢，它也让很多的红外光进入，也就是进自然光的层之后呢，我们的就是你用電啊，拆解塗料嘅結構，佢之所以能夠同時做到隔熱同埋自動清潔，主要係靠佢哋。首先係色鎢青銅，佢負責吸收產生熱力嘅近紅外光。唔好唔記得，仲有佢二氧化鈦，佢吸收咗紫外光之後會產生光催化作用。做到殺菌同埋消毒嘅自動清潔功能。哦，看什么呀？年啊，或者是定期的时候啊，经常报道有一些擦窗的时候意外啊或者跌落窗的一些报道。另外一个就是，那也就需要专业的工啊。OK，你三柏林，那在我们没有我们多功能涂层的。
So this is a self-cleaned glass.
玻璃。那在我们喷了水之后呢，大家看到水会变成一个个的小水珠。带有我们的多功能涂层的这块玻璃呢，我们可以看到，如果我们喷水之后呢，它的超吸水的特性会自动的形成一层水膜，这能从底部把我们玻璃就会冲洗掉。另外一个呢，就我们看到它形成一层膜之后呢，非常快就会干，然后这样呢，也就是不会造成
This is our previous work on self-cleaning property. In fact, this is also make use of the solar energy, okay, to equip our surfaces, our glasses with the self-cleaning property. And then, what about for roofs and walls? Then we come back again. The heat for building the convection heat transfer, and the thermal radiation. So for the opaque roof and walls, sure. What are the strategies to reduce the U value of building envelope? So previously we mentioned how to reduce the U value of glazing windows. So what about for opaque walls and walls? The general practice is to increase the insulation. So apply insulation materials and increase its thermal thickness. And sure, regarding the convection heat transfer, so how to introduce wind into our building is also related to the urban ventilation. Okay, because urban ventilation help us to remove heat and also to remove the pollutants. Okay, the pollutants generated by our city. And so for urban ventilation, we have to understand the prevailing wind and the wind flows. So we can see, although the wind flow can be influenced by the geography, temperature difference, and atmospheric pressure, but it has its patterns. So we can see for different districts, we have the prevailing wind directions, the prevailing wind. And therefore, we can make use of those prevailing winds into our urban planning to provide good ventilation, to let the wind remove the heat and pollutants generated by our buildings, our communities. And also, sure, we consider the ground coverage and the proximity to openness and connectivity to bring the air ventilation into our cities. And so there are more about the building volume, there's requirements. So for urban planning and even that help to reduce the thermal load and increasing urban cooling. And also we ensure the permeability of our buildings for wind penetration. Okay, so we can see when we talk about convection heat transfer, we have to work with the urban planner, okay, to make sure, okay, our city, our urban cities will be ventilated. We try to make use of the prevailing wind, okay, and to consider the building volume and the building permeability, okay, to remove the heat. Sure. Nowadays, we consider only urban ventilation is insufficient. Because we found, okay, for the urban vent penetration, it has its limitation, which have been weakening due to the urban development and the changing climate. So later, I will talk about the material-based innovation to help us cooler our buildings and cooler our cities. So that is a solar reflectance index. We have to consider the solar reflect index of our building skin and the city skin. So how it can be that serious? So we can see the surfaces of our ground and our building. This is this block, the 10th floor, okay? So at noon time, its surface temperature can be higher than 75 degrees Celsius. So they can be even melt. The concrete road melted like chocolate. Okay. So therefore, even it's worse because of the heat accumulates. Okay, the surfaces, our building, our cities trapped heat, and this heat causing urban heat island effect. It's further causing the failure of the energy systems, and even due to the heat dome effect is which cause our city to trap even more, leading to severe and prolonged heat waves. So this is here comes the heat dome. So this is how heat dome, what is a heat dome, and how this heat dome forms. Okay, we can see this is warm air gets trapped in jet stream, forming the omega block loop. Warm air expands afterward, and high pressures forms a dome that prevents warm air from escaping. And then the high pressure forces warm air back to the ground and releasing more heat. This is a heat dome. This is very also hot term in recent years. Okay, it's not only urban heat island effect. It's the trapped heat, the warm air rise up with high pressure, causing the dome and causing the frequent and longer heat waves of the cities, of the regions. So for solar reflect index, in fact, last time we have mentioned, this is the ability of the surface under the sun to keep warm or cooler. So unluckily, most building materials, even construction materials, concrete, metal, marble, or wood, all are with a low solar reflect index. That means they easily trap heat, okay, under the sun. So how to select the construction materials for envelopes, okay, for your building? Sure, we should choose the materials with a higher solar reflectance index, okay? The selection of construction materials with a higher solar reflect index can reduce the indirect solar gain in buildings and reduce the urban heat island effect. So there comes the material-based innovation. Not only we consider the urban ventilation, we also need to consider the construction material, their solar performance. Okay, their solar performance. So this is for example. So how it comes from, just like we learn from Sahara silver ants. So we know Sahara silver ants, they call them the Quaker silver. So this Quaker silver of the Sahara Desert ants that raise against high temperatures. So the surface temperature, the desert temperature can be over 70, 80 degrees Celsius, but their thermal limit of their body is only 30 degrees Celsius. How can they survive in an environment even higher than their body thermal limit? That is due to their body feature. That's their unique coat of hair has higher solar reflectance and has higher thermal emissivity, especially in the atmospheric window. Okay, so this is the idea we get. Okay, this idea means high solar reflector index. Okay, reflect solar irradiance and also higher thermal emissivity. Okay, this is we learn. So that means, okay, we reflect the solar irradiance and the thermal thermal released radiates into the cold universe. Because we last week we know the cold universe, their temperature can be only around 3 Kelvin degree. Okay, 3 Kelvin degree. But now you may ask one question is about the atmosphere, because the atmosphere is a thermoregulator of our Earth. Okay, greenhouse gases trap the heat leaving the Earth, but they has an atmospheric window. Is if your wavelength of your thermal radiation is from 8 to 13 micrometer, it's open. And luckily, like glass, they has low thermal emissivity in this wavelength range. Okay, and then if your surface, the properties, okay, in that with high thermal emissivity in the atmospheric window, last time we also calculate the thermal radiation. The peak is around 10 micrometer the intensity, right? So then you can radiate the heat of the building into the space to achieve self-cooling. So lastly, I think I will spend 20 minutes, okay, to introduce how to, through spectral regulation, steer the solar photons and let our buildings know how to, for building energy efficiency. It is also because this is also related to our building envelope. So for the sun, in fact, we previously we have introduced. So in ancient time, we worship the sun, and it's always the power. Okay, a symbol of power. And however, now we want to know more about their spectral, make good use of the solar energy. Firstly, we need to calculate the solar flux to the Earth and the spectral irradiance. And why solar spectrum is that important? Because we can see even for our buildings with the different position of the sun, different incident angle, the solar spectrum is different. The solar spectrum for the morning, for the afternoon, for the noon time, from summer, winter, they are different. And even for solar cells, we can see for solar cell, different solar cell, they can be activated by different solar photons. Okay, different solar photons. So this is for amorphous silicon solar cell and polycrystalline solar cell and thin film solar cell. We can see they have a different sensitive to different solar spectrum. So therefore, understanding the solar spectrum, actual solar spectrum on the ground is very important for us to make use of the solar energy. Okay. Then we usually we have the formula to calculate the solar actual spectral power. And then with the different sun position, we can also calculate the spectral power distribution of the sun. We also, my research group, we also write a program, okay, to help us with the different composition of the atmosphere to get the actual solar spectrum for all dynamic time, okay, considering if there is a cloud, if there's rain, if there is how the carbon dioxide ppm vary, and also we know the actual solar spectrum with the for different season, different time during the day, we can calculate the actual solar spectrum. And how to make use of the solar radiation, that's totally depending on their photon energy. So we can see usually for the sun, we have UV light, visible light, and near infrared light. Near infrared light, visible light. And so for near infrared light hold around 43% of solar energy. So what about their application? The first application is in the video. I'm showing you the self-cleaned glass, okay? It's titanium dioxide. So by making use of photocatalysis. So, and this is the work I have done, self-cleaned solar PV panels. This is my research group's work. Okay, this is using titanium dioxide. Okay, utilize the high energy photons like UV value, UV and high visible near infrared light. Okay, in fact, photocatalysts have been widely applied in different industry, including for water treatment, hydrogen production, and different applications. So for the common one, and also next week, maybe we talk more about solar photovoltaic technology, is to convert solar energy into power. I think everyone of you knows solar cell and the solar PV technology. That's convert the solar energy into power, into direct current power, DC power. So for the solar cell, we have different types, and their emerging type we also hear is a Perovskite solar cell. And if we integrate those PV panels into our buildings, they are called building integrated photovoltaics. BIPV is a building integrated photovoltaics. Okay, and sure, this is my research work. Okay. This is also the glass also is opaque with the PV. Okay, so for this work, I'm utilize the near infrared light, convert the near infrared light into power, so we still allows visible light into the space. So this is a solar cell. Okay, solar cell together with the function of glass. This paper published in Nature Communication. Sure, I'm working with Professor Ma from Shanghai Jiao Tong University on the colored PV, okay, to make the better appearance of our buildings. And also, the most common one is the photothermal application. It is easy because photothermal effect. So where the photons can be absorbed by the material to excite electrons to high energy states, which are then converted to heat through non-radiative decay. So this is the work I'm working, is a solar absorber. So using the interface absorb solar energy, convert it into thermal energy, and for so through the solar evaporation for seawater desalination. And in our buildings, we can also make good use of the solar energy, just like for the dual mode windows, etc. So if there's a heated, there's a temperature increase and a density variation. And sure, another hot topic is PV is power collection, power generation, and thermal collection together into the building to make good use of the solar energy. And my recent work in recent years, I try to regulate the solar spectrum for building energy efficiency. Okay, that's the how to regulate. What's the purpose? I want to regulate the spectrum. That one is managing its thermal energy. Okay, the other is to enhance the performance. Not here. The performance of the PV. Okay, I summarize into them into maybe I will finish 3.3. Okay, to manipulate the solar absorbance. So there are different materials which can be used to select to absorb the solar spectrum. So through the plasmonic nanoparticles, and even there are different nanocomposites for window application. So if you have interest, you can also read the paper, okay, published my research group, okay. And for the typical nanocomposites for window application, so to absorb solar spectrum and then block to manage the thermal energy and also to reduce the solar heat gain. So one of my research is I think if you have watched the video, it's mentioned I'm the first person to introduce Sensia tungsten bronze nanocomposites into this absorption of function coating. Okay, so this using the Sensia tungsten bronze nanocomposites to perfectly absorb, block UV and near infrared light and only let visible light into the space. And sure, later, so there are many researchers working in this field, and including anti-oxidation technology, etc. So this is the work. And sure, there's other strategies like transition metallic ions, okay, to absorb the solar spectrum for building energy efficiency. Even my research group, we are newly got the chlorophyll, okay, also has a selective absorption. So this is our research work. And also the light, the visible light will showing a little bit green. So blocking the UV and near infrared light and let the visible light into the space. And this is, we maintain 56 of the visible transmittance, but we reject 70% of solar radiation. So here is the photo. We can see this is a light blue, okay? Our glass is light blue, you know, light green colors make you feel happy, okay? And sure, another is to how to manipulate the solar spectrum is reflection, selective reflection. And usually, we use metallic materials and transparent TCOs, okay, to achieve the selective reflectance. So which can enables visible transmittance and near infrared light reflectance, and but it has low media near infrared light emissivity. So it can enhance the thermal insulation, but it has its backdrop, I mentioned, is hinders the interior heat dissipation. So if you're choosing low E coating, okay, if your home without air conditioning is hotter and hotter, the low E coating will trap the heat, leaving the room. So the general, the low E coating, that's the application in is a low E coating. Low E coating has the single low E coating, double low E coating, and the triple low E coating. Okay. So, however, the triple low E coating, okay, has better performance, sure. So the single silver low E coating, I think it has a relatively poor blocking property. So, but the triple has the good one, but it also requires multi-layered structures and featuring low emissivity, which has its drawback. So we also try to apply the selective reflection for our buildings. Okay, we are using the ITO film. So through experiments, through simulation, we found if we successfully regulate the solar absorptance and reflectance of the glass through different strategies, it can help us reduce solar heat gain. Okay, solar heat gain. And I think this one I will leave to later when we couldn't finish it. Okay, and so I will stop here, and we have a 10 minutes break. Then we come back for tutorial session. I will leave this part, okay, to next week. Then tutorial, we will know more about optical properties of our building envelope and nanotechnologies, and sure know more about the magic world of light in our daily life, and also including some calculations. Okay, 10 minutes.你没吃过饭的是吗？吃过饭了是吧？
那你水果啊，有合作方认识。
啊，
Everything just according to my requirements, provide the information. It's only to maybe earlier and someone without credit. So I asked you also leave the email. Yeah, yes, that's the correct address. Okay. Read that in separate. So the okay. We have the price. Oh, I cannot take it. 哦，对对对，我记得。啊，对，他说要星期4见是吧？但是我星期4出差。I don't want to watch myself. I'm about to ask where I can find. The person yourself. My work also has office and lifestyle service very closely. Lifestyle, the location of marketing, yeah, process try the affect culture. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a property that they have to release it. Yeah, but it is. In fact, this one, I think that they have the material, but outside yeah, there's a startup now. If you have interest, if it's new glass, it's perfect. Yeah, so before capturing, so we use machine. Yes, coated. But if you use hand, it's a challenge. It's challenging. Yeah, also they are very dirty. The first we need to clean it. If it's dirty, the better it comes. Yes, we have. We can. I think now we have. Yeah, true. I think that this one also. I think this one this one we have the cooking. Now I have startup. I think I have materials. But this is a real question, and I think it's all inside. So these are pins. Oh. They use pins. They do. What do you do? Yeah, this one is only for metal or glasses. This is not for transparent. That transparent is challenging, but if not transparent, then this one is this one. I also said yeah, later we can also that's This really good. I think that commercial bus. Actually, it's right. Not a problem. Wait. Oh, but not. Amazing, yes. Yes, amazing. He also can start. Definitely. The main purpose is the we really clear the first thing the subject they will apply successfully if your guys you don't have to know how they do that.
I understand because somebody that the classes and they have that's but the change because some person that is very nice.
Yeah, okay. Sure, you send me an email.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay.你现在 email 我覺得呢個另外一個係呢個等因為水果
因為本身就係有啲濕外池啊，佢曬咗，即係曬咗，所以佢就水都係，即係個溫度。
呢個係高
嚟㗎嘛，
係啊，如果呢個係 cooling tower， tower 咧係做咗一個所謂。
因為佢嗰個輸冷水翻嚟嗰個溫度低。
係互聯網嘅非常嗰個時你呢度嘅工作，我知係我嘅音樂，
但係多時我即係如果室外全包晒，
唔係呢個係 cooling，
即係 cooling tower，
係 building 嘅實一個係超到一定要全輸冷水，嗰個水氣差10分左右啦。cooling tower 係1分鐘啦，佢哋 reject 嗰啲水solution， 但係非一通靈嘅水完全係不一樣，亦係我哋叫好深嘅。或者你需要你發展我呢個地方，即係呢個就因為我哋做真係好大嘅有學單，呢個就
但係少啲80幾度，
嗰個單會。
跟住嗰個膠頂係咪都係？
啱你好似 concrete 啊，嗰個就會 trial 你可以我可以
Okay, regarding the seminar arrangement, so each group with 3 to 5 students. So don't worry. I grant you 5 minutes per person. 5 minutes per person. And I think now we have the requirements. Each member has to decline your contribution. Okay, your contribution. You need a declaration of your contribution efforts in your seminar reports. Okay, let me know Oh, okay. Your names, and also the representative. So also, please provide me your email. So in case I will try to, okay, approach you, or maybe some of you want me to assign you into any group. Okay, this is one way for you to. So I didn't ask for a mobile phone, okay, because it's not good for public. But the email I think is okay. So within the class, let me know your topics, proposed topics. I will provide my comments and I will let you know if I approve your topics. Okay. Later, because I don't know how many how many students finally choose this subject. Okay. Maybe it's over 140 or 50. I don't know. So the ceiling is 120, but I think it will be more than that figure. And so therefore, in the future, maybe I have to, we may have presentations in parallel session. I don't want to occupy other lecture time. So the parallel presentation sessions. Okay, parallel presentation sessions. Any comments? Or I think if you find only group with 2 members or 3 members, you can. I think I will upload this version. So you can find a Blackboard through a Blackboard. Okay. So form a group with 3 to 5 members and get representative together. Write down your name. Your name maybe only your English name is the same. English name okay, but also your email. So I will communicate with you through the emails. And the topics you would like to propose of your I think I will give you my comments. So direct your the topics and the presentation. I think at least 2 or 3 weeks before the presentation. I think at least 2 weeks. Yeah, because I understand some of you just form the team, work on the oral presentation and your report. So in the last 2 weeks. So this is the main channel I will communicate with you. And also if you want to find some groupmates, you can also through this way. Okay. And my practice, always, I encourage all of you to attend the seminars, although they are in parallel sessions. But usually, I will ask each other to raise questions. Okay, if group 1 is presenting, I will ask group 3 or group 4 to give comments or raise questions. Okay. Also, so this is the way. Okay, if you don't have any question, then we will start our tutorial and discussion session. I think the first one is still solar reflect index. So last week, in fact, we together calculate the reflectance, the solar reflectance index. Remember, it's for bronze and for concrete. Okay, we remember, I think the calculated solar reflect index at low wind velocity is around 30. So now if there is I'm changing the optical properties of the construction materials. For example, there is a one it's called passive relief cooling pens. It has the reflectance 0.94 and thermal emissivity is 0.94. So we want to calculate the thermal the solar reflect index. Okay, now maybe we can calculate it together, or you can calculate. Okay, if we change the material, construction material with reflectance 0.94 and emittance 0.94, let's calculate. Okay, then the calculated solar reflectance index is 123, which is larger than 100. Okay, so which means the surface temperature of that surface, the cold surface. Okay, is much lower. Okay, the sample surface temperature even much lower than the white surface temperature. So we can see the white surface temperature is 49.3 degrees Celsius, and the sample surface temperature is 36.8 degrees Celsius. So now we understand the importance of solar reflector index. Okay, if you are choosing a material like concrete and bronze, so the solar reflector is only 20 to 30. So the sample surface temperature can be 80 degrees or 90 degrees Celsius. If we are choosing the materials with the high solar reflectance, high emittance, this temperature can be largely lowered. Okay. However, this calculation, this is based on the standard. Is based on the ASTM. This simulation. This is the standard practice for calculating solar reflect index of horizontal and low sloped opaque surfaces. Okay, this is following that one. So after this, I think through this teaching subject, I really wish you could really understand the importance of optical properties of our building skins or our city skins, how they can change the temperature of our building, the temperature of our cities. Okay, so next, I think we want to know more about the magic world of light. And later, after, so through the video, we know more about light. And then we will work together, see how scientifically calculate the transmittance of reflectance of film. So as at the beginning, I mentioned at different incident angles of the sunlight, the transmittance and reflectance will change. Okay. So then I had invited my PhD student, Mr. Yang. He's here. Okay. To let you know more about the magic world of light. Okay. Now let's watch the video first. Firstly, we need to know the story of light. how it travels, how it transmits into different media, and what is refraction, reflectance, and know more about it. Okay, I think this is a really good video for us to know the story about light, and we know how it travels, how it penetrates, okay, through different media. So in fact, we can see there's lots of in our real world refraction and ref refraction and reflection are also causing lots of issues, problems, even so we can see this is actual due to refraction of light, and even so if you plan to spare a fish, okay, don't miss it. So at the lower level. So later, I will let my student, PhD student, Mr. Yang, to let you know, because his research related to light reflection and light reflectance. So I would like to invite him to let you know more about the magic of the light. So following reflection and also the calculation of reflectance and transmittance of light into a film, okay, like the film at different instant angle. So let's pause and welcome Mr. Yang. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And I'm Yang Haotian, a PhD student of Professor Liu. And today it's my honor to be here to share some knowledge about the light. And this class, I'm going to mainly introduce the light reflection and refraction. Okay, first, let's guess. According to the perceived location, which one is the actual location of the fish? 1, 2, 3, 4, or the original location? Guess. 2, okay. Does anyone have an idea? Okay, please. 3. Anyone? 1. I see it. Oh, I see many 3. Okay. 2. Okay. Many answers. Okay. The correct answer is 3. And okay. So, why is perceived location is different from the actual location? This can be attributed to the light refraction, and we can see it when a light passes through the interface between the air and the water. Its pathway has changed, and this is due to the difference of refractive indices, that's the N1 and N2, between the two media. So we know that for the light reflection, it is very easy to calculate the reflecting angle because it is equal to the incident angle. But for the refraction, it is quite difficult because we need to use the Snell's law to calculate it. And in the case of ideal situation, the refracting angle is depends on the refractive indices of two media and the incident angle. The refractive index of a medium equals to the ratio of the light speed in vacuum to the light speed in the medium. And for the ideal situation formula, you can remember or write down it because in the after calculation, we need to use it. In fact, in the actual world, when we need to calculate the refracting angle, we usually need to consider an additional extinction coefficient, which represents the extent to which a medium attenuates electromagnetic waves. But why is it related to electromagnetic waves? Michael Faraday gives answers. Because light is a type of electromagnetic wave, and it can further divided into two vectors, p polarized right and s polarized right. For the s polarized light, its electric field vector is vertical to the plane of the incidence as a reference. And for the p polarized light, the electric field vector is parallel to the plane of incidence, as shown in the blue region. So when the light enter a medium, there exit two polarization behavior. We can see that for the blue waves, it increases, while the orange waves decreases. And for a certain incident angle, the reflectance and the transmittance of S polarized and P polarized light are different. So how to calculate them? We can see that for S polarized light, in the equation, the former delta is delta 1, that is the incident angle, while the latter delta is delta 2, that is refracting angle. But this is opposite for p polarized light, and the figure represents their own reflectance curves. Based on this, we can obtain the final interfacial reflectance, which is equal to half of the sum of reflectance of S polarized light and P polarized light. It was noting that there exists an angle making the P polarized light reflectance being 0, and this angle is usually called Brewster's angle. For the Brewster's angle, it is about 56 degrees for glass. And when the incident angle exceeds the Brewster's angle, okay, and when the incident angle exceeds the Brewster's angle, the interfacial reflectance will rapidly increase. Therefore, in terms of some anti-reflection design, we usually need to avoid the Brewster angle. Now let's see these two pictures and think about the following questions. First, why does the lake bottom gradually become opaque? And in the picture 2, why does the glass in higher floor rooms have high reflectivity? And you have 2 minutes to think about this. Okay. So for the first one, with the site move far, the incidence angle of light from the lake bottom increases, resulting a higher reflectance at the lake surface and thus decrease the transmittance. For 2, the big wheel angle for glass in higher floor rooms increases the interfacial reflectance of glass. Now we know that the big incident angle will lead to a high reflectance. But what is the influence of a high reflectance? As shown in the figures, the reflections from a London skyscraper caused vehicles on the street to melt. And at certain moments, sunlight strikes building surface at steep angles, which leads to strong specular reflections, often causing glare or even heat hazards on nearby streets. So sometimes we need to avoid the high reflectance. To better control the reflectance, we need to know how to calculate it. And here I will give you some materials and their corresponding refractive indices. Please calculate the reflectance between M and L at different incident angles based on this information. Okay. We can see that with the increase of the incident angles, the reflectance increase as well. And actually, for actual film, the reflectance of glazing include infinite interfacial reflections. It is an infinite series and can be calculated by this formula. And based on this, it is another calculated question, and you can take a photo to review it. So when we get the film reflectance, actually we can further calculate the transmittance, because the sum of the transmittance, absorptance, and the reflectance is always equal to 1. So when the absorption of the film is equal to 0, the sum of the transmittance and reflectance is 1, and we can calculate the transmittance according to the film reflectance. We can see that the sum of the film reflectance and the transmittance is always 1, right? Okay, that's all. Is there any question? Okay. Please. What? Oh, the delta 1 is the incident angle, and the delta 2 we can use the
I think you draw what is instant angle. What is incident angle?
Okay.
So for example, this is the film, okay? I think the film you using like this. If the light, okay, this is this is the incident angle. Is it correct?
No.
Oh.
Okay. Yes, there is also a vertical line, and the incident angle is this one. Okay.
Yes.
And when we assume this as air, and below is water. Okay. It has a refractive index of 1, and this it's this. And when light pass through the interface, it will experience a refractive no.
So we can see when the light comes from different position,
Okay.
different angle. If it's with the incident angle of 0, so we can see the film has relatively higher reflectance. Okay, and also higher transmittance with the increase of the incident angle. Sure. Okay, just like a sunset in the afternoon, in the morning. So the film has a little bit. So here is higher reflectance, but it's decreasing transmittance. So you see when it's like kind of parallel. Okay,
Yes.
sunset, then reflectance is 1. There's no transmittance of light. So that's also in alignment with the previous knowledge I mentioned. Even all the reflectance and absorptance will change with the incident angles.
Okay, so the delta 1 is the incident angle, and the delta 2 is the refracting angle, and the delta 3 is the reflecting angle. Very similar. Reflecting.
Okay, maybe for medical translation, I also ask you catch the fish.
Okay. Yes. Okay, you can remember it, and the refractive index of the air is always equal to 1. And we usually
Any technical question? So we can see with the increase of the incident angle, the film reflectance will increase and the transmittance will decrease. Okay. So uh, so that is why at the beginning I mentioned understanding solar spectral is very important for us to make full use of solar spectrum, solar energy, and even for the other purpose. There are question from the chat box. Sure. Yeah. I will see all. Yeah, I think tomorrow morning I will upload the revised version of the lecture notes, including the tutorial and sure also the recording link. Okay, share with you. Not only understanding the importance, of of solar spectrum. So today, to summarize, today, we have introduced, we know more about green spaces, green planning in cities, green building architecture, and how the greenery-based urban heat island effect solutions, okay? And then for building envelope, we mainly introduce for the opaque walls and roof, and also for the glazing windows. And we know there's the way for us through different nanomaterial development, nanomaterials, and also different control strategies. We can regulate, manipulate the spectrum, okay, solar spectrum. So for the tutorial session, we know more about the importance of optical properties of our constructed surface, the solar reflect index, understanding absorptance, reflectance, and also thermal emissivity. And then through the tutorial tool, we understand more about the light, how light travels, okay? How light travels. So including, how it penetrates the other media, so the refraction and the reflectance. So we can see there's lots of to know, about the light. Okay, and for the tutorial session, every time for the tutorial session, definitely we will have the examination questions designed, okay, designed for those tutorial discussions and questions. I think definitely here there will be some calculation questions and together with the discussion open questions, okay, for regarding refraction and reflectance of light. Sure, the previously, okay, understanding solar spectrum, where's the peak, okay, so how to regulate the solar spectrum for building energy efficiency, etc. Okay, it's time. Thank you. Okay, good night. Oh, let's all together thank Dr. Wait, yeah. He has been working on optics, light, for 3 or 4 years. Okay, for his master study, so at Harbin Institute of Technology, and now my PhD student.